Okay, there we go. So officially, good afternoon, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're delighted to share with you a sort of engagement session to share a bit more about Galliford Try, about what we're like as a company, what it's like to work with us, about our culture. I'm really pleased to be joined by Steve Slessor, who's our Managing Director within the Environment business, as well as three of our current graduates, Molly, Harriet and Etienne, who are going to share a bit more first-hand experience of what it's like to be a graduate at Galliford Try. So I'm going to start by just doing a little bit of housekeeping. If for this session, if you're okay, please to keep your mic on mute and turn your camera off, just so that we don't have any background noise or any interruptions while we're speaking. However, there will be an opportunity at the end to ask any questions. And if at that point you do want to come onto camera, turn your mic on, you're more than welcome. Please do. Please come and say hello. If you would prefer to put questions into the chat, that's okay too. In fact, you can do that throughout. If there's any questions that you want to ask throughout, please do pop them into the chat and we'll do our best to answer them and get through them as we go through the session. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our values and culture, and like I say, just hopefully give you a bit of a flavour of what it's like to be part of the Galliford Try team. I'll share some of the great things about Galliford Try and why you should really want to work with us, and what we're looking for as well. So this session really focuses on graduates, and I want to just share a few sort of inside tips on what we're really looking for throughout the recruitment process, essentially. I'll then hand over to Steve Slessor, who's our Managing Director for Environment, and he's going to share with you a little bit about his business particularly, and why early careers is so important for across the business, of course, but why Steve is growing his early careers population within his team. And then I will facilitate a sort of question and answer session from the three graduates that we've got joining us today. And like I say, they'll share a little bit about their roles and a few top tips as well. So just a quick reminder before I start, if we could just have cameras off and mics on mute, please, I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope to hear from you at the end of the session. So this is Bill Hawking, he's our Chief Executive. I've got Bill on the slide there, obviously because he is our Chief Executive, but also because Bill is really passionate about early careers. When I say early careers, I do obviously mean graduates, trainees, apprentices, the whole early careers population. It's sort of, there's no non-cheesy way to say this, but if we bring good people into the business now, they will shape the future of Galliford Try. And that message comes straight from the top. So literally, like I say, from Bill and from our whole senior leadership team, we're really passionate about early careers and growing that population and then hopefully obviously developing and retaining those people as well, so that they will be the leaders of our future. We're a really values-driven organisation. So that's what Bill's sort of saying there, a values-driven, people-orientated organisation. I've got our values on the slide there, and you'll see there's a bit of a theme in sort of everything we do. Everything we do is shaped by and driven by our values. Agile working. So this is something that we do as an organisation and have done throughout the whole time that I've been with Galliford Try, actually, which is now over 9 years. I'd say that at one point we were really industry leading in our approach to agile working. Basically just recognising that traditional 9 to 5 doesn't necessarily work for everyone in terms of that work-life balance. So we encourage people to sort of have an agile and flexible approach to work. I think that really empowers our people to gets more out of them, essentially. So they're happy, they're more efficient, they work well, and then they've got that really great work-life balance as well. So like I say, we've done that for a number of years. I've been here a long time now, but we formalised it back in 2018. So even then, that predates the pandemic. So what that did demonstrate, that when the pandemic did hit in 2020, we were pretty well set up to respond to that. So yeah, that's something that we've done for a number of years now, and we feel it works really well for our people, for our business, and creates a really sort of inclusive working environment for our people. But something we like to shout about. It's an important way of how we work at Galliford Try. So somewhat tied to that is well-being. We like to create a really really supportive environment for our people. This is something that was obviously always important to us, but again, something that was sort of thrown into the limelight when the pandemic hit. You know, it was obviously a very challenging time. So we want to create a culture and environment that supports our people. There's sort of a couple of things I want to pull out on the slide there. One thing is volunteering days. This is something that I think is a really attractive part of our offering. We offer 2 paid volunteering days a year. So whether that's something you already do, whether you've volunteered in some capacity already, or something you would like to do, and I know it's difficult sometimes to find the time, we encourage all our people to use those 2 volunteering days a year to give back, whether that's in your local community or however you sort of want that to look. Something we think is really important. It's an important way of how we work as a company, that sort of giving back to the communities that we work in. And I think having that sort of volunteering approach, sort of policy to volunteering, encourages our people to do that. Another key one there is the mental health awareness. So on the slide there, I've got the Mates in Mind logo, the sort of black and yellow circle there. Mates in Mind are a mental health charity. We've worked with Mates in Mind for a number of years now. Every single person who joins our organisation is put through the first module of Mates in Mind, and that's called Start the Conversation. So as the name suggests, it's about starting that conversation. It's about recognising that I think there's still a wee bit stigma attached to talking about mental health, probably particularly in our industry. So I think what we want to make clear is that within Galliford Try, we want people to talk about it. We want it to be an open environment where people are encouraged to talk about their mental health and have that conversation, start that conversation. So like I say, every single person who joins the organisation goes through that initial module and just encouraging people to talk about it. If that is something that people are interested in, there's further modules that you can become involved with, potentially becoming a mental health first aider. There's different stages you can go down if you wish, if that's something you're interested in. But every single person who joins us goes through that initial module, which, like I say, it's just making it clear that within Galliford Try, we do encourage people to talk about that. Why work with us? So I've got some good things on the slide there. So competitive salary and bonus, excellent holiday allowance, which is 28 days plus 8 bank holidays. Bespoke graduate programme. So I'm not going to talk too much about that because that would be really stealing the thunder of our 3 graduates that we've got who want to share their experience of that. So I won't go into any detail. All I'll say is that the development programme is designed to increase your interpersonal skills. So it's focused on you as an individual. So it's not technical, it's not in line with engineering, quantity surveying, finance, whatever it is that you do within the business. It's focused on you as an individual and enabling you to reach your potential. So whether you join us as a graduate engineer, or a graduate finance graduate, health and safety, any area, every single graduate completes the same graduate development programme because, like I say, it's about you and your interpersonal skills rather than you as an engineer. Another important one there is fully funded professional membership. So this is really a good part of our offering as well. We encourage all our graduates to complete their professional qualification. It's not mandatory, but we absolutely encourage everyone to do that, and we find that the majority of our graduates do want to do that. It's quite an attractive thing. So what's important is we pay for it, so that's good. But I think what's also really important is we provide you with a mentor within the business. So someone within our business who's completed that same professional qualification, they will support you, they will mentor you throughout doing that qualification themselves. I think that's a really important thing because that's someone who has literally been through that same experience. They can share that with you and support you throughout doing that yourself. And then, of course, you would receive on-the-job training, sort of day-to-day, and then formal training in line with your role as well, as whatever role it is that you join the business to do. So what we're looking for. So I've got some really good words here. So that passion, flexibility, all these really important things. But I think what I probably want to share with you is we just want to get to know you a little bit more. So when you apply to one of our roles, we'll be able to see from your CV, from your qualifications, that you've got that kind of academic ability. So we can see you've got that degree level qualification in line with the role. So we can see that already. We don't really need to sort of delve into that too much. What we want to know is, what you're like as a person. Our recruitment process for graduates, early careers as a whole, is designed to be very much a two-way process. So it is important that we get to know you better. That's why we do interviews, assessment centres, because we do want to get to know you a bit better and learn about your skills and experiences, and just like I say, find out a wee bit more about you as a person. But it's also really important that you take that opportunity to get to know us as well. So it's like I say, it's that two-way process. So the company that you choose to join when you graduate is important. We want to make sure that you're a fit for our business, but also that our business is a fit for you and your career aspirations and what you want to do as well. So I think what I sort of want to say by this slide, even though I've got these sort of words that they're all the really good stuff, is that what we're actually looking for is just to get to know you a bit better. And when I come onto the question and answer session with our graduates in a wee bit, I ask them for their sort of top tip, to people who are applying, so they can share, like say, that first-hand experience of people who've recently been through that in terms of what we're looking for and what it's like to go through that process with Galliford Try. Steve Slessor. Okay, so that's all I wanted to sort of share with you as a bit of an intro to what it's like in our culture and our values and that sort of thing. I'd now like to hand over to Steve, who will chat to you for a little bit about his business and his experiences. Over to you, Steve.
Megan, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm currently sat in a lounge at Paddington Station, thanks to the vagaries of the UK transport network. But it's absolutely delighted to be joining you this afternoon, and it's nice to see Harriet and Molly again. I remember recruiting Harriet and Molly some years ago now, and it's good to see that they've developed into some fine members of our early careers team. So as Megan said, I'm the Managing Director of Galliford Try's environment business. So there's I wanted to talk to you all about today. One was just a little bit about my business, what it's about, what it does, and why it's maybe not what you think. And secondly, I wanted to just touch on my career journey within Galliford Try and how I got to be here, because let's just say it's quite diverse. And we'll leave it at that. Molly and Harriet are smiling because they know my background. So just to start off, so the environment business, so we are effectively an engineering and asset management organisation in environment. What that means is that we employ software engineers, chemical engineers, mechanical, process, civil engineers, electrical engineers to maintain and look after the UK's critical national infrastructure in the water sector. And by that, I mean, every time somebody turns on their tap or somebody times flush the toilet, there's a lot of work that goes into getting that. It's very challenging and very difficult work at times. And we work on some of the biggest contracts and projects across the UK. And really, we are in a huge period of growth. As Megan and Molly and Harriet and Etienne will tell you, I've got huge plans for global domination in the sector, and we don't have enough people. And for example, this year, for the first time, I would say Galliford Try normally takes on around about 50 graduates a year across the whole organisation. My bit of the empire this year is taking on around about 70. And I've got plans to maintain that level of recruitment right the way through the next few years as we continue to meet some really significant resource challenges. And I suppose one of the reasons why I was really keen to talk to all of you is that this is an opportunity for me to sell what we do to you, because it very much is a very competitive market for people. And Megan's done a really fine job of talking to you about what Galliford Try is about, its values, its cultures, behaviours. I did a podcast very recently with Glasgow Caledonian Students' Union with the Built Environment team. If it's okay with you, Megan, I'll drop a link into the chat, and anyone who wants to go listen to it can. It's got some really good tips about what we look for in our graduates in a little bit more detail. But I will leave you with one sort of lasting phrase, which is really important to me, and that's curiosity. I really want people who are curious, because if you're curious, that means to learn, and you want to move on, and you want to drive your careers. And the biggest opportunity for working with a business like mine is that we've got a huge network of experienced people that are really looking forward to bringing new early careers people into the organisation and driving them forward. And it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you want to be. There is a home and an opportunity for everyone who wants to be curious and drive their careers forward. And so we've, so for example, Molly and Harriet are data analysts, and Etienne, I think you're a civil engineer. So Etienne works on one of the infrastructure, bridges and highways. So they just do boring stuff like build roads. We do all the exciting stuff. My colleague who runs the highways department currently hurting me right now saying that. But yeah, so and so for example, a couple of years ago we didn't have data analysts in our organisation, and now we've got quite a decent sized team that services all of the business right across the UK. And it doesn't matter where you are or where you're from, where you work. There's opportunities to work as part of teams. We have got offices everywhere. And as Megan said earlier, we've got agile working available. I think one of the most important things for me is that actually you can't learn everything online. You can't learn anything by a Teams call. You need to be part of a team in the mix and picking up things that way. So you'll get an opportunity to do all of those things with us. I'll let Molly and Harriet and Etienne talk to you a little bit about what we do. But I'm conscious that you don't want to hear me rabbiting on all day. But I just thought I'd share my career journey with you to see how I got here. And believe it or not, I know that the camerade's like 30 years, but I'm actually only 46. I know you can't believe it. I can see Megan laughing. But I actually started with Galliford Try 16 years this year. So 16 years ago, I rocked up as a project quantity surveyor. So in 16 years, I've made this 8 or 9 promotions to get from a project QS to MD of a £450 million year business employing 1,400 people, plus thousands of others in the supply chain. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't have done that without Galliford Try's mentality, how it treats people, how it drives people on, how it grows careers. I also managed to become president of my professional institution, Civil Engineering Surveyors. I could have done none of this without the support and network of my colleagues in the business. But before I even got anywhere near that stage, so I left school at 16. I went to art college for 2 years, did photography and media. Really enjoyed it, but was pretty crap at it. So that wasn't a career I could really succeed in. So then I managed to get into the license trade. I ran pubs and bed and breakfasts. Then I went into entertainments, and I was a DJ for a while. I had a radio show and things back in the late 90s. Then I got into construction by accident. No work, found a job, basically putting signs and barriers in the back of a van, driving around the country. And then I got into digging holes. Then I got into laying pipes and pouring concrete. And then I soon realised, don't want to be stuck out in this weather all day, every day, getting soaking wet. And I managed to get an opportunity early 2000s to get almost like a trainee quantity surveyor with a company in the northwest of England where I'm from originally. And I really had no qualifications or no academic background to support it, but I had the curiosity and the tenacity to want to learn and want to develop and want to grow. And you'll find any organisation where you show those kind of skills and behaviours, you will succeed. And if you remember nothing else from this call today, please be curious right the way through the rest of your careers. And so I was very lucky. I did a degree in quantity surveying, day release for 3 years at UCLan in Preston. And I graduated when I was 30. So, and that's when I moved to Scotland to join Galliford Try's Scottish business, which is called Morrison Construction, and the rest is history. And so it's been an absolute privilege to be with the company. And like I say, every opportunity I've ever wanted, needed, has been available to me. And you don't need to think insular in terms of the particular operating units. You know, it's such a huge organisation. It's a £1.2 billion company. It's got huge plans for growth. we're very successful. We've got a huge balance sheet, no debt, no liabilities. We're in the top. We just recently won Contractor of the Year award in the water sector, which was a real thrill for me because we've never ever won that before, and so I was absolutely chuffed. And I know we're in the top percentile of the jobs, graduate jobs. I forget the name of the organisation, Megan, but
Job crowd.
The job crowd.
Yeah.
The TripAdvisor of jobs is what the strapline says. So make of that you will. So Megan, is there anything you'd like me to go over or cover that I haven't talked about briefly?
Maybe the importance of what the graduates that you have, because as you mentioned at the very, very start, we've got graduates obviously across the whole business, but the environment of business are very much leading on that. What do the graduates that you bring in, what does that look like for them?
So what it looks like for them is, it depends on which discipline. So if I was to say, typically most of our graduates come from either engineering or surveying backgrounds. And so for the first couple of years, alongside the graduate training program, we tend to put our graduates right into the mix. So you're going straight into either a construction site or into a live project team or into a workflow around whatever your discipline is. And we do that really is because, from my perspective, the best way to learn is by doing and by being part of a team. I'm sure the girls will give you a really either glowing reference or cutting remarks about my ability to do that. But for me, it's all about developing that want to learn, that curiosity, Megan. And so typically those people would then go on and go through the graduate training scheme. And so typically we run like professional membership schemes alongside this, and they have sort of levels of competence and knowledge. And what happens is, as you're doing the graduate training scheme, you can run, if it's RICS, ICE, IMECE or CICS, in parallel to that. And what's good about them is, right, there's a real structured training framework. So it tells you what good looks like. So if you're a graduate in early careers and you've got a career path, there's a whole structured training framework there that sets out exactly what good looks like, at what stage of career you're at, where you should be at. So you can map yourself against that, and you can use that as a tool for driving your own careers on. So by the time you get through that and you get to end the graduate scheme, most people are in a place where another year or two's experience and they're ready to apply for professional membership. They move then into, so if I say look at quantity survey, for example, they go from a graduate quantity surveyor after 2 years to assistant, and then probably a year to 2 years to go from assistant to QS, and then they're on a journey at that point. And so typically we've got a lot of our early careers members that are in environment have been with the business for quite a few years. So when I started, I was in early careers, and that was 16 years ago. And we've got a lot of our junior leaders that are ready to make the step up. So we do a lot of succession planning. So I don't want to be selfish, but we share our people around the business. So if I haven't got a need for somebody immediately, but we've got people that are ready, there's other parts of the organisation that will say, do you know what, I've got a fantastic opportunity to grow and develop somebody. And because we can work flexibly and agile, it doesn't necessarily matter where people are based always. So I know Harriet and Molly, and apologies Etienne, I'm using them as an example, but it's only because I know them. They started work with me in Scotland in my last role, but now they're working everywhere as part of a wider team. And Molly's in Edinburgh. I think Harriet's still in Edinburgh. I think, but you're planning to move back down the road. And so there's a real sort of sense of diversity and creativity amongst that. So I think for me, I'm really, really, really keen to build diverse, flexible, agile teams. I'm a big believer in driving early careers people in that direction. As an industry, we need more vigor, more youth, more ideas, more creativity. One of the things we tend to do, we do a lot around innovation. So we give people opportunity to bring ideas forward, develop ideas. And we've done a lot in software development recently in terms of how we do things. We're doing a lot more in process automation. So these are all areas that are catching new and emerging sectors, and Galliford Try right in amongst this. And so the skills we're recruiting now, actually, the jobs you'll be doing in 5 years probably don't exist just now. And you'll be learning your trade and your skills and the ability to do what you do as time goes on. And it doesn't matter which part of the business you're in. So whether you're in civil engineering or data analytics or surveying or program management, there's a career path that can take you to managing director, chief executive if you want. There's a cracking booklet that's been put together by the HR team that actually maps out your career steps, what training you need, what professional competence you need. So there's so much help and support there. And as I say, I'm also a big proponent of the professional organisation as president of one. And there's just so much support for that. That's not just in work, but outside work, the support networks to give you availability. A lot of our graduates or early careers then go on to do masters, maybe anywhere between 4 and 10 years post graduation. So I did my masters. The Galliford paid for me to do a masters in construction law and dispute resolution. I did that distance learning. So there's all sorts of other incentives there around working for an organisation like ours, Megan.
Excellent, yeah, thanks, Steve. And I think that's really true. That's definitely my experience as well. We are really progressive, and we look at that skill set. I think we're big enough. What I sort of like to think of it, that we're big enough that we've got that scope of opportunity, but also still small enough to recognise our people within that, recognise them as people, as individuals within that. I think we strike a really nice balance with that, and that's certainly been my experience. Like I say, sort of 9+ years now as well. So. Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Steve.
No problem. I'll drop that podcast link into the chat, and I'll hang about for a bit longer if you want any questions towards the end.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, great. So that now brings us over to our sort of question and answer session with our 3 current graduates. Now, they are current graduates, but they're all graduating this year. So Molly, Harriet and Etienne are all part of our 2020 cohort, which means that they're pretty much, in fact, you finished your last module, haven't you? So yes, you've also actually technically finished your programme now, so you'll be promoted very shortly, or in the coming months, certainly. As you finish your programme. So I'd just like to ask you a few questions, keep this as quite a nice chat, just to get to know a bit more about you, your role within the business, and what your experience has been like as a graduate within Galliford Try. So just like to get to know a little bit more about you first of all. Etienne, I'll start with you. Where did you study and what course did you study?
So I studied a BA Honours degree in business management at the University of Derby, and then I really enjoyed a module in project management. So then I did a master's in project management at Nottingham Trent University, and I finished that in, I think it was 2019 when I finished my studies.
Excellent, thank you. And Molly?
I studied at the University of Glasgow, and I have a Bachelor of Science in Statistics, and I graduated in 2020.
And Harriet?
So similar background to Molly, obviously, because we do the same job. But so I studied down in Exeter in Devon, and I did an integrated master's down there in mathematics.
Interesting. That's 3 quite different backgrounds, actually, especially when two of you do exactly the same role. It's still quite a different way to get there. Excellent. So, Etienne, can you tell me just a little bit about you're a graduate site engineer within the business. What's that about?
So, as a site engineer, my typical role is mainly focused on setting out and understanding the points and things that are on the ground. So, what we use is a thing called audience datum. So it's more of a level check, and it's like a universal level that we use in the world to find out what sort of level things are. So we will analyse a ground level, say it's X amount meters above sea level, and then we'll work off that number to set out points such as bridges. If you're in structures, it'll be like bridges and points and things like that. But if you're in highways, it'll be like roads, it'll be footpaths, it'll be roundabouts, and things like that. So we just make sure that everything that we've designed on the computer or we've designed with the client and design team works perfectly on site. So we make sure that the maths are adding up. We use Pythagorean a lot of the time. We use different points. We back check, we triple check, we use different equipment. We use electronic equipment, and we also use like 2 people equipment, so like the dumpy level and things like that, and we just double check our work, make sure everything's at the right level, set it out for the subcontractors, and just keep checking and monitoring really. We do various things. So I'm currently in the structures team, so at the minute we're building a viaduct bridge, but if you're on highways and you'll be building roads and drainage, footpaths and things like that.
Great. And as a site engineer then, do you spend the majority of your time on site, or what does that look like in terms of sort of where you are?
Yes, so majority of the time I wear oranges and a hard hat and glasses. So I am on site, I'd probably say majority of the day, maybe from about 8 a.m, nipping back of course, but till about 4. I'll be on site, keeping sure the subcontractors know what they're doing, making sure that things are going to plan, making sure the levels are right, and the majority of my work's outside. I do have a lot of paperwork and a lot of clerical work to stay on top of, just in order to aid me to be outside.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And Molly, what about you're a graduate data analyst within environment. What do you do?
So I work in the business improvement part of the business. We make reports for clients, and we develop and monitor all the projects. We analyse a lot of different kinds of data. It can be anything from health and safety to commercial, and some of the reports that we work on go quite high up. Steve will look at quite a lot of them, quite a lot of the time, I think. We try and make Steve's job a bit easier for him, so he can have a quick glance and really know where the business stands at that point in time.
Excellent. Now, Harriet, you do the same job, so I don't want to just ask you the same question to avoid that repetition. Could you share some of the projects that you've been involved with recently?
So recently I've been working quite closely with one of our frameworks in Thames Water. So I work really closely with the commercial manager, the programme manager and the project or construction manager. They're all the managers down there. So I work quite closely with all of them just so that they understand how all of their projects are doing, commercially, programme wise, checking everything's on time. I produce a lot of dashboards and reports for them, just to help them monitor everything, but also report back to the client. So I have had quite a few meetings with people in Thames Water to check that we're telling them everything that they want to hear, all that they can see everything. It's a very open book between us and the client, which is really nice, and I facilitate that a lot, producing all the reports and all the dashboards, and it's just to help notice any trends, just in case it I don't know, can flag an issue, just in case everyone will know before, because obviously we've got all the data for it. So but yeah, hopefully that's a good explanation.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. And Etienne, you mentioned very briefly already, but what sort of projects have you been involved with?
So at the minute I'm at Grantham, and our projects are split into 2. So we had Grantham Phase 2 and Grantham Phase 3. So on Grantham Phase 2, we made 2 roundabouts, or developed 2 roundabouts and 4 slip roads conjoining to the A1 motorway. So it was a brilliant project to get involved in. It was compacted, but it was very intricate. There was a lot going on. And because we're working against live traffic, we had to make sure that we timed a lot of our works around the traffic. We had a lot of traffic management. We had to shut some of the roads. We had to go on the motorway physically. So it was quite challenging, just understanding timetables and making sure that the public were aware when we were going on the roads. And we had to liaise with a lot of councils and things like that. But it was an absolutely brilliant project. We also built a bridge. It's an underpass, so it's it's called a top-down bridge. So we kind of build the top of the deck and then we dig down on Phase 2, and that was brilliant. Now I'm on Phase 3. We're building a viaduct bridge, so that goes over the railway and goes over the river. So this is more of a bottom-up bridge. So we build the foundations, we build the piers, and then we build the decking. And it's about 25 metres high. It's got to go all the way over the railway. So we have to build the ground around it. We have to make sure it's strong enough, the foundations are there. We have to dig down. So we have to dig down about 40 metres into the ground to build, they're called piles. So we have to build concrete steels in the ground to make sure that they're structurally sound for the bridge to therefore go on top. And then we build up from there and we have a bridge. Apart from the bridge, we also have about 3 kilometres or 4 kilometres worth of earthworks. So that's just building a new road. So together with Phase 2 and Phase 3, we're building from the A1, you can slip down off the A1, go around the roundabout, go over the B1174, and then we're going over to the A52. So initially, the whole project is combining the A1 to the A52 for various different roundabouts and bridges and slip roads. But it's a brilliant project at the minute. And yeah, I'm getting really stuck in.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds really interesting, actually. I didn't know the detail of it. It's always interesting to do these sessions because I learn so much as well. Thank you for that. Okay, the next question is probably quite a big one. How would you describe your overall experience of being a graduate here at Galliford Try? Harriet, I'll start with you, please.
So I won't lie, it started off being a bit of a weird one because obviously we started during the pandemic. So first job post uni, I think possibly for all of us. And obviously you don't really know what to expect. So it was a bit unknowing at first, being like, oh, how's it going to be? But all of GT was so supportive of it all. And obviously, as you mentioned earlier, they were very good, had very well established like agile working anyway. So it was very easy to just stick right into that and everything flowed really well. And I would just say the grad program, obviously I know we're probably going to talk about that a bit later, but I've really enjoyed that alongside all of the actual work and stuff we do. But I really enjoyed that alongside all of our work, and it's just been a really nice way to meet other people that are similar to us and obviously like learn more things about ourselves. And as it's been mentioned before, everyone's just really keen for our like progress in the business. No matter what level they are, they're just very keen for you to develop. And as Steve mentioned before, I relocated up to Edinburgh for my job, and due to like moving across the business that we've done over the past 2 years, I'm now able to move a bit closer to home and be closer to my family, but still stay within the role that I'm in. So I've just found it really good. It's been a really nice development progress post uni.
Thank you. Etienne, what about you?
So I actually had a job position for a year before I started my position at Galliford. So I was able to step into the full-time job role for a year, and from that experience to this one, there's a lot more support in this role. There's a lot more development, and it's a sense of value. You feel like even though you're an entry level or starter, you don't feel like you're at the bottom, if that makes sense. You feel like you have the ability to have autonomy over your section. You feel that the ability that you're valued and that your work is actually contributing to the bigger picture. So it's a really nice way to go from, say, school or learning to a full-time position where you feel like you're actually making a difference. So it's a really supported role, and it's definitely something that you can feel valued on and feel like you're growing. It's a really good experience I've had.
Thank you, Molly.
I think I would just have to reiterate what Harriet and Etienne have already said. Just been really supported. It's been really good so far, and there's always someone that you can talk to anything about in the business. But it's like a silly question or like something a bit more important. There's always someone there to talk to. It's been really good so far.
Great, thank you. So what would you say are the key benefits that Galliford Try as an organisation offers? Molly, I'll start with you this time.
I guess like job dependent, you can get a company car or a car allowance, like depending on your job, private health insurance. You've mentioned that before, Megan. I guess the support that you get, you can ask for training that you want, and Galliford Try are more than happy to send you on any of the courses that you can justify to them as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that Steve sort of touched upon when he talked about our career paths that we've got. I found that we are sort of really supportive to allow people to drive their careers. Do you know, because I think that everyone's ambitions are, you know, naturally going to differ. So what we like to do is sort of enable people to drive their own careers, which I think is quite a nice way to do it. Pretty good networking. Great, thank you, Etienne.
So yeah, I'd like to second that really. Just the development that Galliford Try offer is incredible. So I did my Masters in Project Management, and now I'm in a civils role. So they've really helped me to develop. I've learned a lot of things on the ground. And what they'd say to me is I'm quite green. Before I came to site, it was the first time. So they really developed me on the ground. I've really felt integrated. And during my 2 years, I've developed enough skills to now qualify to do an Eng Tech. qualification. So because I didn't do a direct civils role, sometimes you can go straight into chartership, but this is another route into it. As you've been on the ground, you've been an engineer, it's another avenue to explore, and it also gives you the accreditation and recognition that you would do if you did a chartership. So there's always different avenues, and they give a lot of development to push you to your potentials. So yeah, I'd say the development and the growth is something that really encourage, and it's a key benefit of Galliford Try.
Thank you, Harriet.
The only other thing I'd really add is on top of all the support and stuff that we've had, because obviously with everyone being working from home a lot over the past 2 years, now they're very supportive with whether you prefer working from home or going into the office. It's pretty much up to you and your line manager to decide that kind of dynamic between you. But I would just say we have a really good like wellbeing and support group. We have like wellbeing Wednesdays and like lunch and learns. So it's like an hour every week, or even sometimes more sessions than that, where you can just tune in. There's this really lovely lady called Mandy Ritter, and I want to say she's a psychologist, and she'll just like talk you through all kinds of different topics. We get an agenda every month to tell us what ones are going on that month, and you can like tune in, learn about all kinds of things like being lonely or like adjusting to working from home, all kinds of things. You learn a bit more about yourself, but also sometimes it's nice to just, if you're having lunch at home, you're probably having it by yourself, and sometimes it's nice to just be eating a sandwich on the phone to about 30 people talking about all sorts of stuff. So I've really enjoyed their like wellbeing support and our wellbeing Wednesdays that we do as well.
Yeah, I
was going to say, I think they're all recorded as well, so if you miss one, you can always go back and watch them too. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'll move on now to the graduate development programme itself. So I spoke about this very briefly in my intro session, where I just shared that it's about developing you as individuals rather than you as the specific role that you've joined the business in. Obviously, you guys have just been through our best place to talk about what it's actually like to do it. So what part or what module of the development programme have you enjoyed the most, and what did you get from it? Molly, for yourself.
So my favourite part of it is one that we just done last week. It was actually a three-night camping trip down in Yorkshire. So this camping trip was all about teamwork, really about learning about yourself as a leader and how you can act as a leader as well. So it was really good fun. Obviously there was a lot of work to be done during the day. We learned some survival skills, which hopefully we won't need for our actual jobs. They were nice to learn, and then also done some team building exercises as well. And the external company that run our graduate programme, they're brilliant. They're really interesting people. They've always got a lot of stories to tell as well. So yeah, that was my favourite part. And it was good seeing people in real life as well after eventually getting to meet people.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Harriet.
So yeah, I really enjoyed the camping trip as well, and I would say the camping trip was about team building mostly, but obviously we also had a module before that about leadership, and we were in like 2 different cohorts, and we all came down together in London and just did a series of activities. There were even really bizarre activities like building a tower out of Lego and like building a bridge out of spaghetti with hot glue. I absolutely loved that one. And it was it's just you being a leader, and they teach you a lot about yourself, and even things that you don't realise. You've got all the trainers, and they almost sit a bit like a fly on a wall and just observe you all, and because obviously they're so knowledgeable about what they do, and they can pick out the ways that you really work well in a team, the ways that you could possibly improve, how you're good as a leader. They teach you all these kind of skills as to how to really like grow and develop even more. We did personality tests, all that kind of thing, and it was just really interesting to learn so much more about myself that I didn't quite realise. But as soon as I said it, I was like, oh yeah, you're so right, like that makes so much sense. So I really enjoyed that. That's good fun.
That's great. I thought you were going to talk about the wood carving then, but you resisted.
You did like the wood carving, honey.
Molly'd already touched on the camping trip. I didn't want to go too much into it, but yeah, we did wood carving on the camping trip, and I absolutely loved it. Whittled myself a spoon. It was so much fun.
Etienne, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree with both girls. It's the team building and the team tasks that really do it for everybody. It's just when we first meet, unfortunately we were on Teams, but it's just the initial meeting of finding your personality. Maybe you're a little bit shy, you know, you're not quite sure where you belong in the world just yet, in the working world especially, and then learning with the same people and developing with the same people, it helps you build your confidence with your peers. It helps you feel like even though you're, say, in one sector of the country, you know you have supporting networks in different sectors, like in Scotland or up north or down south, and you know that, say you were to move projects or anything, you have a almost like a sense of belonging because you already know people up their areas. And it just helps you develop from see yourself when you first start, and then you grow and you move on, and then when you come to the end task, how confident you feel and how much more of a professional you feel. And you just almost feel like when you do enter the time to be promoted, you feel ready. You feel like you're not an imposter anymore, you belong here, and it's your time to start going. So yeah, it's brilliant. It really does help.
Thank you. That brings me quite neatly on to the next question is, what is the future looking like for you now, as you come to obviously the end of your graduate programme? Harriet, I'll start with you.
That is like the broadest, hardest question ever. But I would say when I first was applying for jobs at uni, and I'm sure many of you that are on the call will very much agree, you're just at uni and you're like, oh, what job do I even go into? I've got so many to apply for. I've got no idea. Well, I was like that anyway. But I applied for a vast majority of roles, and obviously I came across this data analyst role in a construction company, which you wouldn't think would be a very normal role, but it's been fantastic, and I've learned so many technical skills, so I'm really excited to like continue to develop all of those skills. I'm learning so much more every day. Even 2 years on, I feel like I'm still learning new stuff all the time, and obviously with technology developing as well. So I'm really interested to see how far we get to go with that, and obviously it's quite a new thing in construction as well. But on top of that, I'm personally quite interested in like the environment and carbon reductions and net zero plans and stuff. So I am part of the carbon thematic group that we have within the business in GT, and I think that's where I would quite like to focus, looking at obviously still staying in data, but working a bit more in carbon and environmental stuff, because I really like that. Yeah. So yeah. That's me.
Really interesting, yeah. Molly.
I feel like I'm quite similar to Harriet. Obviously, we was doing the same roles. I think just going under Steve Slessor and taking over the world with data.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Steve's very passionate about data, so it's good to work underneath him and just follow him.
Nice to know the brainwashing's working, guys. It's all
Thank you. Etienne, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree with the girls just about the future being bright, really. For me, my role's ever so slightly different. So I just feel like it's very optimistic. My sector, my team that I work for, it's a very optimistic future. More of just developing your skills, and the more you do on site, the more autonomy you get, the more you would like. And you develop new things and you learn new things. So you feel like, oh, I can look after this, and I can also look after this, and I can also look after that. And it's just getting more responsibility, and then hopefully in the next 3 years or so, additional to this, when you feel confident that you know a few more things, potentially you can move up to senior, and then from senior you can move up to agent. And it's just like developing yourself, learning more, and then feeling confident in yourself to move up roles. So I'd say it's very optimistic and bright, and just working forward and learning more is what I'd say.
Thank you. So we actually still have a number of roles available for 2022. So Steve mentioned earlier that we're bringing on a huge number of graduates this year, much more than we normally would, and that's a growth that we intend to continue. So exciting, very exciting time to join Galliford Try. So we absolutely still have opportunities for 2022, and I'd encourage anyone listening to go and have a look to see what we have available. So for those who are thinking about applying, I'll ask our grads to share their top tip. What would be your top tip for those who are applying or potentially going through our application process? Etienne, I'll start with you, please.
So my top tip is to be yourself, because when you're in a working environment, you spend majority of your life at work, 5 out of 7 days at work. you know, long hours, short hours, but you spend the majority of your time at work. So pretending to be somebody that you're not will just wear you down, and you'll get to a point where you don't feel like you're progressing. So if you be yourself, if you put your best professional self forward in your applications, in your assessment day, then it will show the recruiters that you know who you are and where you want to go, and it'll also give yourself confidence knowing that this position is right for me because I've shone through myself and it's a position for me. So definitely be yourself and put your best professional self first.
Thank you. And Molly?
I was going to say what Etienne said about being yourself. Remember, it's a conversation between you and the company as well. And do your research. Make sure you know what Galliford Try is all about, or Morrison Construction if they're also in Scotland. Just know a bit about the company before you come.
I think that's a really good one as well, because we fully appreciate that graduates will and have to apply to multiple companies. That's the nature of it. We completely understand that, but we do also appreciate when people have done their research and they do know the company that they've applied to. I always think that really supports and helps an application. Harriet, what about you?
I feel like it's mostly been covered, but I guess within the research, just making sure GT is a good fit for you. It's all well and good you being perfect for the role, but if GT aren't for you, then it's obviously we always are, we're fantastic, but obviously making sure that GT is the right fit for you as well, because obviously if you are awarded a job here, then if the company's not for you, then it's going to be a bit of a hindrance to you guys. And my only other advice would be enjoy your last summer. You've got months off after all your exams before you'll probably start your new role, and it will be your last really long summer holiday to enjoy, and savour it. It'll be so much fun. Do everything, spend all your money, because you can earn it all again later. So enjoy it.
You can always make more money.
Exactly. So
excellent, thank you. I think that ties in really well to the two-way process that I was talking about earlier. So it's just really important for everyone, that you're a fit for us. Obviously, that's literally why we want to get to know a bit more about you, but also that our company and what the projects that we work on and just our values and our culture is a good fit for you too, because it just benefits everyone, doesn't it, if that two-way is a match. So yeah, thank you for that. That's really interesting. I always think it's really insightful to hear from people who've literally just been through it, just completing the programme now. So thank you for that. And I already mentioned this, but we have current roles that are live right now for 2022. If you are considering applying, please do. If you're not quite ready, if you're not graduating until potentially next year or even later, please do join our talent pool. If you drop an email to earlycareers@gallifordtry.co.uk, we can add you to our talent pool, and we will let you know about events and new opportunities when they become live. Please do just drop that email address a note and ask to join our talent pool, and yeah, we'll keep in touch with current opportunities. So we do have sort of 7 minutes remaining. I'd really love to open the floor to if anyone's got any questions for any of our panel. Oh, someone's just dropped one immediately into the chat. Oh, it's disappeared. Bear with me. I'll just grab the chat back up on the screen there. Thank you for that. Please feel free to join us on screen if you'd like to, but absolutely no problem at all to just put it into the chat as this individual's just done. As an electrical engineer working at Galliford Try, what sort of tasks or projects would I be working on? Steve, can I give that one to you?
Yeah, I could see the look of fear in your eyes there, Megan, as you read that question out. So to be honest, it depends. So quite often, initially, some electrical engineers prefer to work in the design space. So they actually do a bit of planning out, doing some designing the electrical for a particular project. They then can go on and do project delivery and get involved actually out on site and doing the engineering. A lot of electrical engineers, some of them go into commissioning, some of them then go into sort of project delivery roles and go on a sort of generalist route that takes you into senior leadership and management. So I think you get to the first few years, really, you'll be actually in a team working with other electrical engineers, looking at, for example, commissioning wastewater treatment works, electrical installations of clean water kit. So we actually already own a motor control centre manufacturer called Lintop Controls. So we've got a really diverse organisation. So you can even go and work in the actual factory components, looking at how they're designed and built, as well as actually going out into a project and delivering it. So there's such a wide, diverse things that you can do. It's incredible. So, and that's, I mean, that's the typical day job. I think as you go through your career and you specialise, you can either specialise into like subject matter expert and go at the technical director route, or you can go into like the generalist route and go into project management, delivery management, and then on through to senior project management, senior leaders in the business. So there's a real variety of opportunities there.
Thank you. So there's a question that was actually sent in advance of today's session, just like to answer. During the graduate programme, do graduates get moved around different areas of the company? The answer to that is no. You would join the organisation in whatever role it is you join, for example, the graduate data analyst or graduate site engineer, and you would do that role alongside completing your graduate development programme for the 2 years. However, as we've sort of all mentioned throughout the call, there's absolutely scope for different opportunities across the organisation, and we're always really responsive to that sort of thing, but it's not rotational, to answer the question.
I would just support that, Megan, by saying in quite a lot of projects, if you're in as a site agent or site engineering route, civil engineering route, you'll spend some time in planning or estimating, or you might then go on and spend some time in health and safety. So, you know, it's not necessarily, although you'd be with us in the environment, for example, for 2 years, you might do different roles within that as part of it, but it's no sort of formal rotation. It's all about getting that experience and that learning.
And one of our modules as well is designed to, it's called the bigger picture, and it's designed to do exactly that, is see different parts of the business. So the module is to sort of partner with another graduate from your cohort to find out about what they do. And so someone completely different. So you wouldn't partner with someone with the same role as you in a different part of the business, but someone who does something really quite different, to understand you know, how their role differs from yours, how it ties into yours. Like I say, it's that bigger picture. That's why it's called that. So we're really sort of encouraging to, yes, explore. This is a great time to explore where your interests lie and the sort of different opportunities that we can offer at sort of our size of an organisation and the scope of our projects as well. Okay, so there's no more questions sort of popped into the chat, and I am conscious of time. Unless anyone had anything else, anyone from the panel or anyone else that wants to join on to sort of say anything, I'll maybe draw us to a close.
Just one for me, Megan. If anyone wants to find out more about our plans for global domination and what we're doing in environment, if you have a look on LinkedIn, I've dropped a link into the profile, but I post regularly on that platform as well as Instagram and things around the various things we're doing in construction and civil engineering and asset management and all the other good stuff we've talked about in today in environment. And you can find out a lot more granular detail, the type of stuff we do. And a lot of those things you'll see Etienne, Molly and Harriet involved with those projects as well.
Excellent, thank you. I can see someone has now raised their hand. Atusi, are you there? Would you like to ask a question?
Hi. Actually, I had sent my question either when I was trying to put my email for this platform. I asked if maybe you sponsor international students or something like that for visa when you take them through the early careers program.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was covered because I joined in later. I had network problems.
No worries at all. So we require current right to work in the UK. We do have a sponsorship license. So yeah, we would absolutely welcome an application as long as you've got sort of current right to work in the UK. So that does include the graduate post-study visa, which I believe you could sort of automatically go on to following graduation. So that would be an acceptable route, yes.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, actually, I graduated in 2020, not from Nottingham Trent University. So
Okay.
I don't know if that still covers for, right now I'm back in Malawi. So I don't know if maybe you can still go and try to apply for this, or maybe it's just for those in the UK or something like that.
Okay, no, it's certainly not just for those in the UK. We do welcome international applications. What I would say, because of the specific circumstances, if you drop a wee note to earlycareers@gallifordtry.co.uk, we'll have a wee chat with you about your particular circumstances and make sure that you're sort of eligible. But like I say, we do just require right to work in the current right to work in the UK to be able to apply.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Look forward to speaking to you soon.
Okay.
That's 1 o'clock now. So thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Really appreciate your time. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you at future events. I'll stop the recording now. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.